Why are you doing what are you doing? What's rewarding for you?
I think there's so much that's rewarding. Like, I feel like I'm on a team too. Like, I love people. I love working together for a common goal. And realistically, like, that's so rewarding for me. I love seeing people have success. I love the opportunity to support kids, like the systems that are in place within our country. The residential treatment centers, if done well, can be so rehabilitating for kids. And if they don't exist, the only other option for a lot of these kids is juvie and our juvenile justice system. That doesn't necessarily do a lot of the rehabilitation work that we get to do. I think that piece is important to me, that we're doing good work for these kids. I tell my staff all the time, they live here. This is their home while they're with us. Safety is super important. If people don't feel safe, then they can't be fully themselves. And if people don't feel safe, then they will be unwilling to change too.
Andy, it is great to see you. I normally talk to you face to face, but it's still good to see you here on this Zoom connection. You are the CEO of San Marcos Treatment Center. Say hello to everybody and tell us, what does the CEO of San Marcos Treatment Center do, and what is it?
Hello, everyone. My name's Andy Garrett. I am, as Jim said, the CEO of San Marcos Treatment Center. We are a residential treatment center for children and adolescents ages 6 to 17, located in San Marcos, Texas. We take kids from the state of Texas, as well as all over the United States, all the way up to Alaska and Hawaii, as well as overseas. We have a pretty robust treatment program for our military and our military families. And so we take kids who have who've experienced multiple traumas, have difficulty creating relationships, been suicidal, have had multiple suicide attempts, a lot of self-injury, and running away from home, and just doing a lot of like dangerous activities that the parents really feel like they can't, they can no longer like control their kid or feel like they can be safe. We do have a second track for substance abuse, but we are not a substance abuse treatment center. I think we primarily are a psychiatric residential treatment center. So,
Yeah. So, Andy, do you call these children patients? What do you?
yes,
Okay,
no, that's a great question. They're not residents; they are patients.
they're
Because
patients.
we see that there is an illness, and that illness is for them, it can be chemical as well as relational. And so it's our job to really help support and develop those relationship skills.
How many of these kids are truly foster kids, and how many of them are under your care for a service, time, treatment time, or explain a little bit more about that.
So ideally, some of your best results we can get within 6 to 9 months of having the kids out here and working with their families. Probably about 10 to 15% of our kids are from the foster care system. The rest of them are, we're working with their parents and caregivers. So sometimes their caregivers are their grandparents, or sometimes their caregivers, they've been adopted by a mother, the kid's aunt or uncle, and whatnot. But there are a lot of transitions that we're working through with these parents and these kids.
Are there different categories that you put these kids into, or like are there acute categories, like trauma? Are they more chronic categories? Or is this mental health issues like post-traumatic events, or is it a chemical? I have no idea what I'm talking about, but you can fill it in.
It's yeah. So the kids are, really what we break the kids down to, there could be some kids who are like sexually acting out and perpetrating on others, and so those kids will have their own unit, and we have our own specific program for kids working through some of those issues. And then we also have a unit for some of our kids who are on the spectrum, where they fall on the autism spectrum. That's a little more concrete, and those are like their older kids that are there. And then I've got units that are specifically for more age appropriate. So where we really work on relationship building skills on all the units. I mean, really, it comes to for me mental health comes down to, can I create positive social connections? And if I can create positive social connections, then I will be able to manage my mental health. If I have a really difficult time creating positive social connections and relationships, then I'm gonna feel anxious. I'm gonna feel alone. I'm gonna feel like I can't function properly in the world, and that really results in a lot of that. Isolation is a huge contributor to mental health issues. So we want to be able to form connections and form relationships. And trauma also stops that. Trauma can be so inhibiting for the individual if he's gone through a pretty significant trauma that they have really hard time trusting others and making those positive social connections. And can really stunt someone, especially kids, can stunt their development moving forward. So we spend a lot of time working through building skills on the front end on how to create relationships, how to manage themselves internally, because that's a huge piece as well. When I feel a certain way, how do I, if something happens in a relationship, what have I been doing? So if I feel a certain way, have I been lashing out, calling people names, pushing people away, fighting, and doing those kind of behaviors, or have I been isolating myself? If I feel a certain way, isolating myself, pulling myself away, and staying away from others. I mean, there could be these two extremes that people go, and they don't realize that how destructive that is for them in creating relationships. So when you start to feel a certain way, that's really your body telling you something's wrong. And so, but they're responding in a way that's pushing and not creating relationships, rather than saying, like, my body's telling me something's wrong, what's wrong, and how can I move forward in a more productive way, feeling that something is amiss. And so we work on developing those skills first, and then getting into then helping them kind of unravel their trauma and tell a new story, and how to build positive social connections.
There's some pressure related to the work, but there seems to be some holistic, altruistic kind of senses that I capture, from you. But in your own words, why are you doing what are you doing? What's rewarding for you?
I think there's so much that's rewarding. I feel like I'm on a team too. Like I love people. I love working together for a common goal. And realistically, like that's so rewarding for me. I love seeing people have success. And I love the opportunity to support kids, like the way that our kind, like the systems that are in place within our country, the residential treatment centers, if done well, or can be so rehabilitating for kids. And if they don't exist, the only other option for a lot of these kids is juvie and our juvenile justice system. That doesn't necessarily do a lot of the rehabilitation work that we get to do. It's not, I think that piece is, that piece is important to me. That we're doing good work for these kids. I tell my staff all the time, they live here. This is their home while they're with us. So how can we make it a safe and comfortable place? Safety is super important. If people don't feel safe, then they can't be fully themselves. And if people don't feel safe, then they will be unwilling to change too. And so we need our patients to feel safe, so that, they can feel the freedom to be able to try new things, because trying new things is scary and hard, and you need to feel like people are going to have grace and support you and let you keep trying until you get it right. So what I like to tell folks about me is, like, I fell in love with the NBA watching Magic Johnson. And something that, and I grew up in that era. And something I loved about him was just the joy that he played with.
Yes.
And B, just that, like, his game was to make everybody else better.
Has anybody smiled on the hardwood more than Magic Johnson before or since? I've never seen anybody smile that much.
There's no way. Like, you just I just loved it, and I just loved him, and what the way he played the game, and what he, just what he did. Like, he won, but he was serious.
Mm-hmm.
He was joyful, and it was about winning, but it was also, he knew in order to win that everybody had to play at their best. And so his game was all about, how do I make everybody better? And I love it. And that's what I love about that's how I think about my role. That's how I like to do work. I'm not a solitary worker. I don't like that. I like being with people and doing stuff together as a team.
That's great. I got a few more questions about the center itself, and then I want to ask you some more questions about the kids, the patients, and also their guardians when they're back.
Yeah.
From a these are just thoughts from a business perspective that I was thinking about. Tell us about staffing hours. How does staffing hours work? I'm not imagining that you have somebody who lives there 24/7. I'm imagining similar to nurses, like shifts or something. Explain that, and how do you protect the kids from? I mean, I'm sure you all vet your staff well, but none of us are naive enough anymore, hopefully, where that's enough. How do you keep the kids safe? Let's start with those two things.
Okay. So yeah, our staff work in shifts, depends on the role. Our mental health associates, who do a lot of the direct service with the kids, they work 8-hour shifts. And they have a morning shift, an afternoon shift, and then an evening shift. And our nurses, same type of shift. So our nurses will work 2 16s and then an 8. Our therapists will be here 9 to 5, sometimes on the weekend, as well as our admissions department. I mean, we really are a 24/7 facility, and we're 24/7 awake. And so we're checking on. We have to round on our patients every 15 minutes. So we're making sure that we have eyes on every 15 minutes. So I know when I work the floor, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our ratios are 5-to-1. So we've got 1 staff per 5 kids, which is a fantastic ratio.
Yeah, that's even better than most church ministry ratios that they try to work with. Yeah.
So, and then we vet our patients, or we vet our staff. Excuse me, we vet our staff significant. There's stuff that they have to go through. There's a Department of Justice reviews that we have to do, kind of run their names through various different things to look at. We also ask for references, so we need at least between 3 to 5 references on each person that comes here to work with us. So sometimes it can slow down the process, but it's an important part of what we do.